Lisa had always been curious about different cultures, working as a marketing coordinator during the day and studying for her master's degree at night. She thought hosting an exchange student would be the perfect way to learn about the world. Without expensive travel, her small two-bedroom apartment in downtown had been feeling lonely anyway since her roommate moved out 3 months ago. The cultural exchange website looked professional enough. Bright photos of smiling students from different countries, testimonials from happy host families, and detailed guidelines about creating meaningful cross-cultural experiences. Lisa spent weeks reading every page, taking notes about Japanese customs, and even buying a few books about Asian cultures from the local bookstore. She was excited when she received an email about hosting May, a 23-year-old student from Tokyo who wanted to improve her English and experience American college life. The profile showed a cheerful young woman with short black hair and glasses studying international business. Her English in the emails seemed pretty good, though sometimes she used formal phrases that made Lisa smile. Lisa prepared the guest's bedroom carefully. She bought new bedsheets with a simple pattern, cleared out the closet completely, and even put up a small whiteboard where they could practice English words. She researched Japanese breakfast foods and stocked up on rice, seaweed, and green tea. The local Asian grocery store owner was helpful, explaining which brands were authentic and which dishes might make me feel at home. The weeks leading up to May's arrival were filled with planning. Lisa created a list of local attractions they could visit together: the art museum, the historic district, and the university campus where Lisa took her evening classes. She imagined long conversations about their different worlds, cooking traditional foods together, and maybe even learning some Japanese phrases. When moving day arrived, Lisa cleaned the apartment twice and arranged fresh flowers on the kitchen table. She had taken the afternoon off work, something her boss wasn't thrilled about, but Lisa explained it was for an important cultural program. She checked her phone constantly, waiting for updates about May's arrival time. The knock on the door came round for in the afternoon. Lisa opened it to find a petite young woman with a single backpack and a bright smile. May looked exactly like her photos, though perhaps a bit thinner and more tired than expected. She bowed politely and spoke in careful English about being grateful for Lisa's kindness. "Welcome to America," Lisa said warmly, helping carry the surprisingly light backpack inside. "You must be exhausted from the long flight." May nodded and looked around the apartment with wide eyes. "So beautiful," she said softly. "Much bigger than Tokyo apartment." Lisa gave her the full tour, showing off the guest's bedroom and explaining how everything worked: the shower temperature, the kitchen appliances, and the building's laundry room downstairs. May listened carefully to every word, occasionally asking questions about American customs. "In Japan, we remove shoes always," May mentioned, pointing to her feet. "Of course, whatever makes you comfortable," Lisa replied, quickly taking off her own shoes. She had read about this custom, but forgotten her excitement. That first evening went smoothly enough. They ordered pizza, which May had never tried before, and watched a romantic comedy while Lisa explained cultural references and slang. May took notes in a small notebook, which Lisa found adorable. She asked thoughtful questions about American dating culture, work-life balance, and even how Americans choose their clothes. "Japanese girls dress very careful," May explained. "Always think about what others think. American girls seem more free." Lisa nodded, appreciating the cultural exchange already happening. "We do tend to be more casual here. Personal expression is really important to us." May studied Lisa's jeans and sweater thoughtfully. "I want to learn this freedom," she said with determination that seemed almost intense. As bedtime approached, Lisa showed May where the extra towels were kept and made sure she had everything needed for a good night's sleep. May seemed reluctant to go to her room, lingering in the living room and asking more questions about Lisa's daily routine. "What time do you wake up? What do you eat for breakfast? Do you exercise every morning?" The questions came quickly, one after another. "We can talk more tomorrow," Lisa said gently. "You need to rest and adjust to the time difference." May nodded but continued standing there. In Japan, sometimes, students sleep in same room as host family for better cultural learning. Lisa paused, not sure how to respond. Well, here in America, we usually value privacy and personal space. Everyone has their own room. Yes. American independence, May said, making another note in her little book. I must learn this too. The next morning, Lisa woke up to the smell of something cooking. She wandered into the kitchen to find May preparing what looked like a traditional Japanese breakfast: rice, miso soup, and grilled fish. The table was set perfectly with chopsticks and small bowls. You didn't have to do all this, Lisa said, touched by the thoughtfulness. I want to share my culture, May replied happily. And I observe how you eat American style. They sat together, and May watched Lisa's every movement with the chopsticks, taking mental notes of how she held them and what she said about the food. The attention was flattering at first, but something about the intensity of May's observation made Lisa slightly uncomfortable. After breakfast, May insisted on cleaning everything while Lisa got ready for work. I learned American kitchen habits, she explained, studying how Lisa loaded the dishwasher and organized the cabinets. You really don't need to watch everything. I do, Lisa said with a laugh. Just make yourself at home. But as Lisa left for work, she noticed May following her to the door, asking about her exact schedule, which bus she would take, and what time she would return. The questions felt more like an interview than casual curiosity. During her lunch break at work, Lisa received 3 text messages from May, photos of the apartment from different angles, questions about which TV channels were acceptable to watch, and a detailed description of her morning activities. While Lisa appreciated being kept informed, something felt off about the level of detail and the formal tone of the messages. That evening, Lisa returned home to find May had rearranged some items in the living room. The throw pillows were positioned differently, her magazines were stacked in a new order, and even her personal mail had been sorted and placed in neat piles. I hope this is okay, May said quickly when she saw Lisa's expression. I want to help create better harmony in space. Very important in Japanese culture. Lisa forced a smile. That's thoughtful, but in American culture, we usually ask before moving someone's personal belongings. May nodded seriously and wrote this down. American personal space very important. I must remember. As the evening progressed, Lisa began to notice that May seemed to be studying her like a subject in a research project. Every gesture, every word choice, every habit was observed and sometimes commented upon. When Lisa curled up on the couch to watch TV, May sat unusually close and asked detailed questions about American relaxation techniques. Do all American women sit this way? Is this how you show comfort in your culture? The questions were innocent enough, but the constant attention was beginning to feel overwhelming. Lisa had expected cultural exchange, but this felt more like being under a microscope. That night, as Lisa prepared for bed, she reflected on the day. Maybe this was normal for someone experiencing a completely new culture. Maybe May was just enthusiastic about learning. But deep down, something felt different than what she had signed up for. The cultural exchange was supposed to be mutual, but so far, it felt like she was the only one being studied. She decided to give it more time. After all, cultural differences could be confusing, and maybe May just needed to adjust to American social norms. Lisa fell asleep thinking about ways to gently guide her new housemate toward more typical roommate behavior, unaware that this was only the beginning of a much more complicated situation. By the end of the first week, Lisa started noticing small changes around her apartment that she hadn't authorized. Her favorite coffee mug was always clean and placed in a different spot. Her work clothes were mysteriously pressed and hanging in a new arrangement. Even her bathroom products seemed to be organized according to some system she didn't understand. When she asked May about it, the response was always the same cheerful explanation. I want to help. In Japan, we take care of household together. I learned American home management this way. Lisa tried to appreciate the help, but something felt invasive about coming home to find her personal space constantly rearranged. She decided to have a gentle conversation about boundaries during their evening meal. "May, I really appreciate your thoughtfulness," Lisa began carefully, "but in American culture, we usually ask before organizing someone else's belongings." May nodded enthusiastically and pulled out her notebook. "Yes, American independence. Very important. But how do I learn proper American helping if I don't practice?" The question caught Lisa off guard. How do you explain that help isn't always welcome when the person seems so genuinely eager to learn? "Maybe we could work together on household tasks instead," Lisa suggested. "That way we both participate." "Ah, American teamwork," May exclaimed, writing furiously. Very good cultural lesson. But the next day, Lisa discovered that May had taken her suggestion to an extreme level. When she went to get dressed for work, she found her entire wardrobe had been reorganized by color and style. Professional clothes hung together, casual wear was grouped separately, and even her undergarments had been sorted and folded in a way that made Lisa's cheeks burn with embarrassment. "May," Lisa called out, trying to keep her voice steady, "did you go through all my clothes?" May appeared in the doorway with that same bright smile. "Yes, I study American fashion organization. Your style very interesting. I make notes about what professional American woman wears." Lisa felt a wave of discomfort wash over her. But these are very personal items. In America, we don't usually go through someone's private clothing. "Oh," May looked genuinely surprised. "In Japan, family help with clothing care. I think we are like family now." The word family made Lisa pause. She had wanted a cultural exchange, but this felt more like having an overly attached younger sister who didn't understand personal space. Throughout the second week, the boundary issues continued to escalate. Lisa would find May reading her mail, claiming she wanted to understand American business communications. Her laptop browser history showed searches she hadn't made, things like American woman daily routine and how American girls live alone. The most unsettling incident happened on a Thursday evening. Lisa came home from a particularly stressful day at work to find May sitting on her bed, going through a box of old photos and letters. "These pictures very interesting," May said without looking up. "I learn about American family relationships and friend connections." Lisa felt her patience finally crack. "May, that's completely inappropriate. These are private memories." For the first time, May looked confused and slightly hurt. "But I want to understand your life completely. How else do I learn authentic American experience?" "By respecting boundaries," Lisa said more firmly than she intended. American friendship and roommate relationships are built on respect for privacy. May carefully wrote this down, but Lisa could see she didn't really understand the concept. Everything was still being filtered through this lens of cultural learning, as if Lisa's discomfort was just another fascinating American custom to study and document. The situation became even more uncomfortable when May started copying Lisa's behaviors in obvious ways. If Lisa wore her hair in a ponytail, May would appear with the same hairstyle. If Lisa chose a particular outfit, May would put together something remarkably similar. She even started using the same phrases and expressions Lisa used, like she was learning a script. "I practice American confidence," May explained when Lisa pointed out the mirroring behavior. "I study how a successful American woman presents herself." Lisa began to feel like she was living with her own shadow. Every personal habit, every preference, every small detail of her daily life was being observed, copied, and cataloged. The cultural exchange she had envisioned was turning into something that felt more like being studied by a very dedicated researcher. The breaking point came during the weekend. Lisa had planned a quiet Saturday at home, catching up on homework and relaxing, but May seemed determined to be part of every single activity. When Lisa spread her textbooks on the dining table to study, May sat right beside her, watching her read and take notes. "What you study? How American students learn? Do you always make notes this way?" Lisa tried to concentrate, but the constant questions and observation made it impossible. When she moved to the couch, May followed. When she went to the kitchen for a snack, May came too. Asking about American eating habits and portion sizes, Lisa finally said, "I need some alone time to focus on my studies." "Alone time?" May repeated, looking genuinely puzzled. "But I want to observe American study methods." That's exactly the problem. Lisa realized she was saying out loud, "You're not living your own experience here. You're just copying mine." May looked hurt and confused. "But this is cultural exchange. I learn from you, you learn from me." "But what am I learning from you?" Lisa asked, and immediately felt bad for the sharp tone. "You haven't shared much about your own life or culture. You're just watching." Mine, that evening, may seem quieter than usual. But Lisa noticed she was still taking notes in her little book. Whatever Lisa did, making dinner, watching TV, getting ready for bed, was still being documented with the same intense focus. Lisa began to wonder if this was normal behavior for exchange students, or if she had somehow gotten paired with someone who had a very different understanding of what cultural exchange meant. She started researching online, looking for other people's experiences with hosting exchange students. Most of the stories she found talked about cooking together, sharing traditions, maybe some language barriers or funny misunderstandings about customs. None of them mentioned feeling like they were living with someone who was conducting a detailed anthropological study of their daily life. As she fell asleep that Saturday night, Lisa made a mental note to contact the exchange program coordinator on Monday. Maybe they could provide some guidance on how to handle the situation, or at least confirm that this level of intense observation was normal. She had no idea that Monday would bring discoveries that would make her current concerns seem like minor inconveniences. The real story of who May was and why she was so desperate to learn every detail of Lisa's life was still hidden beneath layers of polite smiles and careful note-taking. But for now, Lisa just wanted to figure out how to reclaim some sense of privacy in her own home, and maybe help May understand that true cultural exchange required mutual respect and personal boundaries, concepts that seemed to get lost in translation despite May's otherwise excellent English skills. 3 weeks into what was supposed to be a simple cultural exchange, Lisa's sleep had become restless. She found herself waking up at odd hours, listening for sounds in the apartment. Something about May's constant presence during the day made Lisa feel like she needed to guard her privacy even while sleeping. On a quiet Tuesday night, Lisa went to bed earlier than usual. Work had been particularly demanding, and she had an important presentation the next morning. She made sure to lock her bedroom door, a habit she'd recently developed, and settled in for what she hoped would be a full night's rest around 2 in the morning. Lisa woke up to the feeling that something was wrong. The room felt different somehow, like the air had changed. Still half asleep, she assumed it was just her imagination and tried to roll over to go back to sleep. That's when she realized she wasn't alone in the bed. Her eyes flew open, and in the dim light from the street lamp outside her window, she could make out a figure lying next to her. The shock sent adrenaline coursing through her body as she quickly reached for the bedside lamp. When the light clicked on, Lisa found herself staring at May, who was lying calmly on top of the covers, completely undressed, with that same notebook in her hands. "What are you doing?" Lisa managed to gasp, grabbing her robe and putting it on quickly. May looked up from her notebook with that familiar, innocent expression. "I study American sleeping habits and bedroom culture. Very important for understanding personal relationships." Lisa felt like her heart might be out of her chest. "May, you can't just come into someone's bedroom like this, and you definitely can't. You can't be undressed in my bed." "But I read online about American college experiences," May said matter-of-factly, sitting up but making no move to cover herself or leave. "Many articles talk about roommate bonding and intimate friendships. I want to understand this culture properly." Lisa's mind was racing. This was so far beyond any cultural misunderstanding she could imagine. "This is not normal American behavior, May. This is completely inappropriate." May tilted her head, still looking genuinely confused. "But American movies and websites show women sharing beds and being very close. I thought this was how American friendship works." Movies are not real life, Lisa said, her voice rising despite her attempts to stay calm. And you can't learn about friendship by invading someone's privacy like this. For the first time since May had arrived, Lisa saw something flicker in her eyes. Not confusion, but something that looked almost like disappointment or frustration. I only want to understand, May said quietly, but she still made no move to leave or get dressed. You need to go back to your room right now, Lisa said firmly, pointing toward the door. And we need to have a serious conversation tomorrow about boundaries and respect. May finally stood up, picking up her notebook and walking toward the door with an unsettling calmness. I write about American reaction to intimacy attempt, she said as if she were documenting a science experiment. Lisa waited until she heard May's bedroom door close, before allowing herself to collapse back onto her bed. Her hands were shaking, and she realized she felt genuinely unsafe in her own home. For the first time in her life, she spent the rest of the night awake, replaying the incident and trying to make sense of what had happened. Was this really just a cultural misunderstanding taken to an extreme? Or was there something more concerning about May's behavior? The next morning, Lisa expected some acknowledgement of how inappropriate the previous night had been. Instead, she found May in the kitchen, cheerfully preparing breakfast as if nothing had happened. "Good morning," May called out brightly. "I make your favorite scrambled eggs and toast." Lisa stood in the doorway, still in her robe, unsure how to process the normalcy of the scene after the trauma of the night before. "May, we need to talk about last night, yes?" "Very interesting cultural observation," May replied, setting a perfect breakfast plate on the table. "I learn American women very protective of private space, different from what internet suggests." The casual way she dismissed Lisa's distress made something inside Lisa snap. "This isn't a cultural observation. What you did was wrong and inappropriate. In any culture," May looked up from her own breakfast, that same innocent expression on her face. "But I am here to learn American ways. How do I understand if I don't experience?" "There are things you don't get to experience," Lisa said, her voice getting louder. "There are boundaries that exist in every culture." Instead of looking apologetic or embarrassed, May pulled out her notebook and started writing. American. Anger response very intense, interesting emotional pattern. Lisa felt like she was losing her mind. How could someone be so completely tone deaf to another person's feelings? She grabbed her coffee and headed toward her bedroom to get dressed for work, needing to escape the situation. But as she passed by the living room, she noticed something that made her stop cold. On the coffee table were several pamphlets and printouts about cultural exchange programs. But these weren't the same materials she remembered seeing when May first arrived. Lisa picked up one of the pamphlets and realized she didn't recognize the program name or logo. The contact information was different too. Confused, she gathered up all the materials and looked through them more carefully. None of them matched the original program she thought she had signed up for. The website addresses were different. The program names didn't match, and some of the pamphlets looked like they might have been printed at home rather than professionally produced. A cold feeling settled in Lisa's stomach as she realized she couldn't actually remember receiving any official documentation about the exchange program. Everything had been arranged through emails and the website, but now she couldn't find any official paperwork with letterheads or signatures. After work that day, Lisa went straight to her computer and tried to find the original exchange program website. After 20 minutes of searching, she realized she couldn't locate it anywhere. The URL she remembered didn't work, and none of the major cultural exchange organizations had any programs that matched her memory of what she'd signed up for. She spent the evening doing detective work online, trying to piece together how she had connected with May in the first place. The more she searched, the more confused she became. Her email history showed conversations with someone about hosting an exchange student, but the details were vague and the sender's information seemed deliberately unclear. Meanwhile, May continued acting as if everything was perfectly normal. She made dinner, organized Lisa's mail, and even left a small gift on Lisa's desk, a traditional Japanese bookmark. with a note thanking her for being such a good cultural teacher. The kindness of the gesture made Lisa feel even more confused and guilty. Was she overreacting to what might genuinely be cultural differences? But the incident from the night before felt too extreme to dismiss as simple misunderstanding. That evening, Lisa decided to do something she probably should have done weeks ago. She called her best friend Rachel and told her everything that had been happening. Lisa. Rachel said after hearing the whole story, "That doesn't sound like any exchange program I've ever heard of. And what happened last night? That's not cultural confusion. That's someone with serious boundary issues." But she seemed so sincere about wanting to learn, Lisa protested weakly. Learning doesn't require violating your privacy and making you feel unsafe in your own home. Rachel said firmly, "You need to contact the program coordinator tomorrow and get some answers." Lisa knew Rachel was right, but part of her still felt guilty about potentially getting May in trouble. After all, where would she go if she was removed from the program? As she lay in bed that night, with a chair wedged against her door, for extra security, Lisa realized she had been so focused on being a good host and cultural ambassador that she had ignored her own instincts and comfort. The question now was whether she was dealing with someone who genuinely didn't understand boundaries, or someone who was deliberately manipulating the situation under the guise of cultural exchange. Either way, Lisa knew that tomorrow she needed to start getting real answers about who May actually was, and how she had ended up in Lisa's apartment in the first place. Lisa spent her lunch break the next day calling every cultural exchange organization she could find online. Each conversation followed the same frustrating pattern: polite representatives checking their systems, long holds while they searched their databases. In the same disappointing conclusion, nobody had any record of a student named May, or any program matching Lisa's description. "Are you sure about the program name?" asked the fifth coordinator Lisa spoke with. "We work with most of the legitimate exchange organizations in the region, and what you're describing doesn't match any of our partner programs." Lisa felt a cold knot forming in her stomach. "What do you mean by legitimate programs?" "Well, unfortunately, there are some people who take advantage of good-hearted folks like yourself. They create fake exchange programs to find free housing or other things. We see it more often than we'd like." After hanging up, Lisa sat in her car in the office parking lot, staring at her phone. Everything she had believed about May's presence in her apartment was starting to crumble. But if May wasn't really an exchange student, then who was she? And more importantly, what did she actually want? That evening, Lisa decided to do some detective work. While May was in the shower, she carefully searched through the guest room. Hidden under a pile of clothes in the closet, she found several pieces of paper with different names and addresses written on them. Some were crossed out. Others had notes scribbled beside them like "to suspicious" or "asked too many questions." Lisa's hands trembled as she found a notebook filled with detailed observations about her daily routine, not the innocent cultural notes May always claimed to be taking, but specific details about when Lisa left for work, what time she came home, which neighbors she talked to, and even notes about her personal phone conversations that May must have been listening to. On the last page, there was a list of other people's names with addresses across the city. Next to each name was a duration: 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 weeks, and brief notes like "caught on to quickly" or "got suspicious." Lisa realized she was looking at a record of other people who had unknowingly hosted May under false pretenses. She wasn't the first victim of this elaborate scheme. Her phone buzzed with a text message, and Lisa nearly jumped out of her skin. It was from an unknown number. "Hi, I know this sounds strange, but I think we need to talk about someone named May. I found your address in some papers she left behind." With shaking fingers, Lisa typed back, "Who's this? My name is Jennifer. May stayed with me for 3 weeks last month. She told me she was an exchange student too." Lisa's heart pounded as she arranged to meet Jennifer at a coffee shop the next evening. She carefully put everything back exactly where she found it and tried to act normal. When May emerged from the bathroom, "You seem nervous tonight," May observed, pulling out her ever-present notebook. Different energy than usual. Lisa forced a smile. Just tired from work. But May's eyes seemed sharper than usual, more calculating. I noticed you came home later today. Different routine. Any special reason? The question sent chills down Lisa's spine. How closely had May been monitoring her schedule? I just had some errands to run. Ah, May said, making a note. American work-life balance includes personal tasks during day. That night, Lisa barely slept. She kept thinking about the notebook full of observations and the list of other victims. How many people had May manipulated, and what exactly was her endgame? The next evening, Lisa met Jennifer at a busy coffee shop downtown. Jennifer was a woman in her 30s with tired eyes and a cautious demeanor. I almost didn't believe it when I found your address, Jennifer said, sliding into the booth across from Lisa. But when you confirmed her name, I knew I had to. Warn you. Warn me about what? Jennifer pulled out her phone and showed Lisa several photos. This is what my apartment looked like after May left. Lisa stared at the images in shock. The apartment looked like it had been systematically searched. Drawers were pulled out. Papers were scattered everywhere, and personal items were missing. She took my laptop, some jewelry, and weirdly enough, a bunch of personal documents. Jennifer continued. But the police said it was hard to prove since I had voluntarily let her stay there. Did she do the same things to you? The constant watching and note-taking? Oh yes? Jennifer nodded grimly, and the boundary violations kept getting worse by the end. I felt like a prisoner in my own home. She knew my schedule better than I did, and she had opinions about everything I did. Lisa felt sick. How did you finally get her to leave? I didn't. One morning I woke up and she was just gone. Left behind some fake exchange program pamphlets and that notebook full of creepy observations. About my life, Jennifer leaned forward. Lisa, I don't think she's just looking for free housing. I think she's studying people for some reason, learning how to copy their lives. But why? I've been thinking about that for weeks, Jennifer said. I found some other people online who had similar experiences. There's a woman named Patricia who hosted May for a month, and a guy named David who let her stay for 2 weeks. We started comparing notes, and the pattern is always the same. Jennifer pulled out a piece of paper with handwritten notes. She studies someone intensely, learns their routines and habits, then disappears. But Patricia noticed that after May left, someone had been using her social media accounts and had applied for jobs using her personal information. Lisa's blood ran cold. Identity theft. We think so. But it's more sophisticated than that. She's not just stealing identities. She's learning how to become other people. Like she's collecting personalities and life stories, Lisa thought. About all the personal questions May had asked. All the intimate details she had observed and documented. She's been taking notes about everything I do. My work routine, my friends. Even my family relationships. You need to get her out of your apartment immediately, Jennifer said urgently. And you need to check all your accounts and personal documents, change your passwords, contact your bank, everything. That night, Lisa drove around the city for hours, trying to process everything she had learned. May wasn't just a confused exchange student with boundary issues. She was running some kind of elaborate con game that involved studying and potentially stealing people's identities. When Lisa finally returned to her apartment, she found May sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open, typing something with intense concentration. When she saw Lisa coming, she quickly closed the computer. You're very late tonight, May said with that familiar smile that now looked sinister rather than innocent. I was worried. Were you? Lisa asked, studying May's face carefully. Of course. We are like family now. I care about your safety. But something had changed in May's demeanor. The innocent confusion was gone, replaced by something more calculating. And aware, Lisa realized that May knew she was being investigated. I think we need to talk tomorrow, Lisa said carefully. Yes, May agreed, her smile never wavering. I think we do too. As Lisa lay awake that night, she wondered how many other people were out there who had fallen for May's exchange student story. And more frightening, She wondered what May was really planning to do with all the personal information she had been so carefully collecting. Lisa had thought she was helping someone learn about American culture, but instead she had been unknowingly training someone to steal her entire life. The question now was whether she could safely get May out of her apartment before she became another name on that list of victims who had gotten too suspicious. Tomorrow would bring the confrontation Lisa had been dreading, but she knew she couldn't let this dangerous game continue any longer. Too many people had already been hurt, and Lisa was determined not to become another casualty of May's elaborate deception. The next morning, Lisa woke up with a plan. She had spent most of the night thinking about the best way to confront May without putting herself in danger. She decided to be direct but calm, and to have backup ready just in case things went wrong. Lisa called in sick to work and asked her friend Rachel to come over for moral support. She also discreetly contacted the police non-emergency line to let them know about the situation, just in case she needed help later. When Rachel arrived, Lisa filled her in on everything she had discovered. They agreed that Rachel would wait in the hallway outside the apartment during the conversation, ready to call for help if needed. Around 10 in the morning, Lisa found May in the living room, organizing Lisa's books according to some system that probably made sense only to her. May, we need to have an honest conversation, Lisa said, sitting down across from her. May looked up with that familiar innocent expression, but Lisa could see something different in her eyes now, a wariness that hadn't been there before. Of course, what would you like to discuss? I know you're not really an exchange student, Lisa said simply. I've been in contact with the exchange programs, and none of them have any record of you. I also spoke with Jennifer, who you stayed with before me. For a moment, May's mask slipped completely. The innocent confusion disappeared, replaced by a calculating look that made Lisa's skin crawl. Then, just as quickly, the facade returned. I think there must be some mistake, May said, but her voice lacked its usual cheerful tone. There's no mistake, Lisa continued. I found your notebook with observations about my daily routine. I saw the list of names and addresses of other people you've stayed with. I know this is all fake. May sat quietly for a long moment, studying Lisa's face. Then, to Lisa's surprise, her shoulders sagged and she seemed to deflate. You're right, she said quietly. There's no exchange program. The admission hung in the air between them. Lisa felt a mix of vindication and fear. She had been right. But now she was alone with someone who had been systematically deceiving her for weeks. Who are you really? Lisa asked. And what do you want? May was quiet for so long that Lisa wasn't sure she would answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, smaller, and more vulnerable than Lisa had ever heard it. My name really is May, she began. But I'm not from Tokyo. I'm from here, from this city. I was studying at the community college until my student visa expired 6 months ago. Lisa listened carefully, trying to separate truth from potential manipulation. I couldn't go back to China. My family, they spent everything to send me here. They expected me to succeed, to get a good job and help support them. But when my visa expired, I couldn't legally work anymore. I couldn't afford school. I couldn't afford rent. I couldn't afford anything. So you started pretending to be Anne. Exchange student, May nodded, looking ashamed for the first time since Lisa had known her. At first, it was just to have a place to sleep. I found some websites about host families and cultural exchange programs. I thought if I could stay with someone for a few weeks, maybe I could figure out a plan. But it became more than that, Lisa said, thinking about the detailed observations and the identity theft that Jennifer had mentioned. Yes, May admitted. I realized that if I watched people carefully enough, I could learn how to fit in better, how to seem more American, more legitimate. I thought maybe I could create a new identity for myself. Lisa felt a complex mix of emotions, anger at being deceived, but also a strange sadness for someone who was obviously desperate and lost. May, what you did was wrong. You violated my privacy. You made me feel unsafe in my own home. And you've apparently stolen from other people. I never stole anything from you. May said quickly. But you stole from others? May's silence was answer enough. I want you to leave, Lisa said firmly. Today, right now. Where am I supposed to go? May asked, and for the first time, she sounded genuinely desperate rather than manipulative. Lisa felt torn. On one hand, May had put her through weeks of psychological manipulation and boundary violations. On the other hand, she was clearly someone who was lost and afraid, making terrible decisions out of desperation. That's not my responsibility anymore, Lisa said, though it hurt to be so blunt. You made choices that hurt people. You can't keep doing this to innocent people who are just trying to help. I know, May said quietly. I know it's wrong, but I don't know how else to survive. There are legal ways to get help, Lisa said. Social services, immigration lawyers, community organizations. You chose the path that hurt other people instead of seeking legitimate help. May stood up and began gathering her few belongings. As she packed, she looked like a completely different person from the cheerful, curious student who had arrived 3 weeks ago. The mask was finally off, and underneath was someone who looked exhausted and defeated. I'm sorry, May said as she shouldered her backpack. I really am. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did hurt me. Lisa replied. You made me question my own judgment. You violated my privacy, and you made me afraid in my own home. I know, and I'm sorry. After May left, Lisa spent the rest of the day changing her passwords, checking her bank accounts, and securing her personal information. She also called the other victims Jennifer had mentioned to warn them about what to watch for. Over the following weeks, Lisa found herself thinking about May often. She was angry about the deception and the violation of her trust, but she also couldn't stop wondering what had happened to her. Was she safe? Was she still manipulating other innocent people through Jennifer? Lisa learned that May had eventually been caught using someone else's identification to apply for jobs. She was arrested and faced deportation proceedings, but she was also connected with an immigration lawyer who specialized in helping people in desperate situations. The experience changed Lisa in ways she didn't expect. She became more cautious about helping strangers, but she also became more aware of how desperation could drive people to make terrible choices. She started volunteering with an organization that helped immigrants navigate the legal system, hoping to provide the kind of legitimate help that might prevent others from choosing May's path. Lisa never heard from May directly again, but she occasionally wondered about her. Had she found a legal way to stay in the country? Had she learned from her mistakes? Or was she still out there manipulating other well-meaning people? The experience taught Lisa important lessons about boundaries, trust, and the difference between helping someone and enabling their harmful behavior. She realized that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone's destructive patterns, even when they claim to be victims themselves. Most importantly, Lisa learned to trust her instincts. From the very beginning, something had felt off about May's behavior, but Lisa had ignored those feelings in her eagerness to be helpful and culturally sensitive. She promised herself that she would never again dismiss her own discomfort in the name of being polite or accommodating. The apartment felt strange and empty for a while after May left, but gradually Lisa began to feel at home in her own space again. She could leave her belongings where she put them, have private phone conversations, and sleep peacefully without worrying about unwanted intrusions. When friends asked Lisa about her experience with hosting an exchange student, she was honest about what had happened. Several people admitted they had received suspicious emails about hosting students, and Lisa's story helped them recognize potential scams. The whole experience became a cautionary tale that Lisa shared carefully and thoughtfully, not to discourage people from legitimate cultural exchange programs, but to help others recognize when someone might be taking advantage of their generosity and goodwill. Lisa never regretted trying to help someone from another culture, but she learned that real help requires honesty, respect, and mutual boundaries, qualities that had been missing from her relationship with May. From the very beginning,